It's Tuesday, and you know what that means. A new episode of No Filter. Yes, indeed. She is a fashion icon. She is a legend, a feminist, and someone that I've known my whole career of modeling. Yeah. She's revolutionized the way women wear a dress, with a wrap dress, which is sexy and versatile, easy to pack. She has worked in the style industry in various capacities ever since she's done the fashion perfumes, luggages, accessories, shoes. She's launched a home collection. She also was the president of the Council of Fashion Designers of America for 13 years. She's literally seen it and done it all. And I really mean that when I say done it all. And she is a real life princess, but never uses that title, but she is. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the one and the only Princess Diane von Furstenberg. Diane von Furstenberg, but we should say Princess Diane von Furstenberg because you are a princess.
Well, I don't know. I married a
Welcome.
prince. So I guess I am a princess, but
you are a princess, and you never used it, but you are.
Okay, so we'll go for that. So
Where
it's
are
nice
you?
to
How
see
are
you.
you? And welcome to No Filter.
Thank you. It's nice to see you. And yes, I do know you since you were a teenager. And I've always, and I did take you to lunch one day, and you had just arrived in New York, I think. And I took you to lunch, and what did I tell you?
You told me about business. You asked me what I like to do. We spoke about doing wigs. I mean, you right away made me think that even though I just come into modeling, you already were kind of angling me to think of other things around modeling. And you took me to that lovely restaurant.
Where there were only men.
Only men. The Four Seasons on 52nd. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I was so in awe. And I remember telling my boyfriend at the time, which was Bobby, I'm going to lunch with Diane von Furstenberg.
And there was this long, skinny thing, all dressed in black. And every man in the room said, oh my God, who is this goddess?
Oh no, they must have thought I was a complete dork.
No.
Because I was just, I mean, New York was just so exciting to be in New York.
And when was it? In
where?
The 90s?
86 I arrived. So I think,
wow.
I think it was between the end of 86, beginning of 87.
All right.
Definitely was a teenager.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
And basically, I told you, I don't know what I told you, but I guess that I told you in a weird way, without knowing it, that own it was the secret of life. And this year, during the pandemic, I did this little book, which is the publisher had come to me and they had said, people want to know about your wisdom. You give advice to everyone. People quote you all the time.
Which is true, you do.
So we would like you to make these little books that are self-help books that people love. And originally it was supposed to be called In Charge, right? Because In Charge was always the umbrella above me, right? When people would say, what did you want to do when you were growing up? And I said, well, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew the kind of woman I wanted to be. I wanted to be a woman in charge. And then later when people would ask me, who do you dress? I would say the same thing, the women in charge. Yeah. So In Charge was always kind of this umbrella. And so they wanted me to do this book called In Charge. Then I realized that In Charge could be, can appear to be, aggressive. But to be in charge is actually not aggressive. A commitment to ourselves. It's owning who we are. We own our imperfection, they become our assets. We own our vulnerability, we turn it into strength. So own it is, so then I decided to call the book Own It. And I made it as a dictionary. So, because
I
when
believe
I
Own It fits you much better, Dad, because it's something you tell us all. And I think it's kind of a little hard to have the title of the book before you, maybe for some people, but with you, you're so hands-on. And more you speak to you, the more ideas come to you for that person. I think each person you talk to as an individual is not the same advice across the board. So it's
right. So that's why. So I started to write as a normal book, and when I was reading it, it was so condescending. So what I did is I took a big copybook, and I wrote all the words that speak to me, and sometimes some that don't speak to me alphabetically. And this little book is like a dictionary. It has 268 words, and everyone will, sometimes it's just a definition, sometimes it's an anecdote, but
right.
all of it brings you to own it. So, you want me to read you one?
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll start with the letter A. And because it was the pandemic, okay, so you could choose awareness alone, authenticity, allure, age, abundance, autumn, attention, advocacy, attitude, anger, addiction.
Authenticity, please.
Okay, authenticity. Nothing is more attractive and powerful than authenticity. It is the essence of who we really are and so much better than any imitation.
Amen to that. Oh, this book is good. I like that you can pick it up and just find what
You
it
can
is
go
that you see to you for that moment.
exactly. And you can have it by your side table and you open it and you just go for it. Fake. Being fake is like having an imposter living inside ourselves, bringing only insecurity, unhappiness, and endless misunderstanding.
And total fear and doubt. But wait,
Yeah.
Diane, we have to do like we do here in No Filter. We need to
Okay,
start from the
sorry.
beginning. First of all, where were you born and where did you grow up?
All right. I was born in Belgium. Uh, both my parents were kind of refugees. My mother had come as a child from Greece. My father came as a student from Russia, Romania, and I was born in Belgium. But if you talk about my childhood, I think it's really important to talk about my mother and the fact that before I was born,
I know she's a survivor.
my mother was arrested in occupied Belgium. She spent 13 months in concentration camp, and when she was liberated, she weighed 45 pounds. So she wasn't supposed to survive. She wasn't supposed to. She did get married after, but she wasn't supposed to have a child until much later, and yet I was born. So the fact that my mother was a survivor, that I wasn't supposed to be born, explained very much the kind of person that I am.
Wow. So you've come from a woman of strength, of perseverance, of hope.
Yes, and of refusing to be a
And
victim.
resilience.
Refusing to be a victim, no matter what. And that is what she taught me. Fear was not an option. If I was afraid of the dark, she locked me in the dark closet. Today she would go to jail. But as a result, I'm not afraid. And she made me fearless. And therefore, I am very thankful for that. She used to tell me, God saved me so that I can give you life. By giving you life, you gave me my life back. You are my torch of freedom. So I was born with a torch of freedom in my hand. which could be heavy for a little girl, but that also explained my life.
Well, it explains your life, but explains you as a woman, because your victim doesn't even sit nowhere near you. You are such a force, Diane. Really. I mean, I think of the first time I've met you. I've known you throughout my whole career, through my teens, through my 20s, through my 30s, through my 40s, and now my 50s. And you've just always remained consistently the same. But, I love our times of when I just come over to your place and sit at the end of your bed, and you'll just be like, okay, just, checking in, let's have our little talks. Those are quality times. Those really matter. Those are very special moments of checking in with you. And
this is like what life is about. Life is about intimacy. I don't like small talk. Either you're working, and so if you're working, you're selling and blah blah blah. But if you're not working, then I like intimacy. I like intimate. I don't like small talk. And you and I we have met all through the years. You've done a lot of my shows, opened the shows, end up the shows. When I was in Moscow, you were so nice to me. You took care of me because you
I
were
was
living
so
there.
thrilled when I saw you were coming to Moscow. I was like, this is my town now. I have to be there.
I know,
and
you were
But what a great exhibition, everybody, by the way.
I know, you were very kind to me. I will
Very
remember
innovative. That you should that exhibition should be back going around, because I love how innovative it was. You really felt the journey of your whole career.
I know. And it was Natalia's idea. She said, what are you going to do? Because I was going to Russia to open something. And I said, I don't know. I'm going to do a fashion show. She said, no, people are so intrigued by who you were in the 70s. You should do a little exhibition.
Yeah.
And so it was her idea, actually.
She's absolutely right. They want to see your journey. They want to see, but it also gives hopes to so many who want to follow in your footsteps in design, in all that you've achieved in accessories and all the businesses you've entered into. So you always used to say to me, count on you. You always used to say, if I picked up the phone and called you, and there was an instance I picked up the phone and called you on your very last year of CFDA, and you came through with that. You were like, you have not what? I'll take care of that. And I knew then, Diane says she's taking care. She's taking care.
Well, I love you. And
the feeling's mutual. I love you too.
Yeah, I love you because from the beginning, I could tell, that you were special. And from the beginning, we had an intimate relationship. So even if we don't see each other a lot, I know that you're only one email away and that I can call on you anytime. And you know the same thing about me.
Absolutely.
And I think that what is important about, you speaking and you doing these interviews and everything, what I think is important is that because you're successful, because I am successful, we have a voice. And when you have a voice, it is important to use your voice, your experience, your knowledge, your memories, everything your connection, in order to help others to be. You and I have one thing in common. We became the woman we wanted to be, right? So
correct.
It is our duty and our privilege to talk about it, to talk about the insecurities, to talk about the vulnerabilities.
I love the way you give back. I mean, we got to cover a little bit here. So you have seen all of it. You've done the glamorous life. You went to the Studio 54. You've been through all of it, and you know so many. You've seen so much, many lives over for many of us. Tell me, please just give us a little insight. What was it like in the 80s? What was it like to step in Studio 54?
Okay. So to arrive in New York in the 70s was the funnest thing you could possibly imagine. New York was dangerous. New York was cheap. And because it was cheap, You had so many artists, you had so many people, so many creative people. As a woman, there was the beginning of women liberation. It was also the sex liberation. We didn't know anything about AIDS. It was this moment in history between the invention of pill and the coming out of AIDS. So we were very, very free. And then there was Studio 54, which was the funnest nightclub ever. But the Studio 54, even though it has this huge thing, this huge fame, only lasted, I think, 2.5 years.
That was it? Sure.
Yeah. But a lot of things happened in there. But anyway, so it was a real fun time to be in New York. Yes. And to be young in the 70s was very good. And to be in fashion was very interesting, because the 70s is like the 30s. There's those decades that don't go out of style, right? The 70s is still glamorous. The 30s is still glamorous.
Absolutely. You then met other designers in fashion, obviously, but all the artists like Basquiat. You knew all of these people. They were all your friends. You're one of the legendary ones that are still here today.
I know. Sometimes I feel like, I talk to people and I say, oh my God, it's like now this Holston film came out, I knew everybody and
How
almost
did you feel about it? Did you
everybody.
watch it?
Yes, I did watch it. It was very good. It was very, I mean, some things were, because I know every single person, of course, somewhere came out better than others, but it was good. It did give very much the feeling of the era, yes.
I felt like Ewan McGregor was amazing. He kept his character.
Amazing. He was really, really good. He's a great actor. Yeah.
But I don't remember ever hearing that Calvin and Holston were they friends? They were friends, no? Or was there competitiveness?
I don't know if they were friends. They were contemporaries, and I could see that Holston was jealous of Calvin, because when Calvin came about and he had this big moment of glory. I mean, they were competitive, in fashion, everyone is competitive.
And then, of course, you knew people like Diana Ross, Grace Jones, Cher, Barry Manilow. Who did you, Diane? I mean, Michael Jackson. You've met everyone.
Yes.
You really have met everyone.
Yes.
And then
I have.
Other things that you do that I want people to be aware of is, and I've had the honor to be invited to those wonderful events that you did of DVF, your foundation at the United Nations, where you would give those awards to young women in emerging markets, especially. That I was so honored. I got to go with, you invited me with Hillary Clinton, Gloria Steinberg, Cardi Kloss. It was such a great evening, and really, really just something to be, felt good to be at, felt wonderful to hear, to see the progress that people are doing in other parts of the world.
Yes, the DVF Award is something I created 11 years ago. And it's really, the reason is to highlight these incredible women who do so much work, who have had the strength to fight, the courage to survive, and the leadership to inspire. And in order to highlight these women, we give them, our foundation, we give them money, we support them, and I want to highlight them. And in order to highlight them, of course, I need people to invite people like you that bring attention. And last year when we did the last one, it was in DC, and the big prize went to RBG, Ruth Ginsburg, and that was really nice. And it turned out to be the last public appearance that she
of
did.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you've always been someone that's been always aware and always been supportive of diversity inclusion. So no one can ever say to you that you've never done that. I can say that from my standpoint. How do you feel when you see our business today and what it's gone through. Obviously, you're very close to know Beth Ann and Iman, and what we've had to ask for, and be involved in the CFDA, being the head of the CFDA. What do you feel? Do you feel like we've improved? We've got ways to go?
Of course it has improved. I think, and also, this new generation, this Gen Z, because I have two granddaughters who are in that generation. I mean, for them, it's so normal, the inclusiveness. And I never really realized how racist people were, and how off everything was. And I remember Bethan, and I remember, Iman, you were the groundbreaking. You were the lead and the shining light for so many. But now yes, I think we are making progress. I think we should. I mean, you know, um, for me, I don't even understand why not.
Right.
It's one of those things, and but it is exciting. It is exciting to have Kamala Harris as a vice president. That is exciting.
Now, as well as supporting people in the fashion creative side, Diane also supports, you support a lot of people in the tech side. I mean, I've only recently, in the last couple of years, gone to, been invited to some of these wonderful events, and you have been there, from what I've been told, front and center from the day they were born, these inceptions of bringing people together, being at Google Camp, being at Cannes Lions, being at Brilliant Minds. And, you really, you go from, you cross all borders. You don't, there is no wall for you. And you've been supportive to so many young, emerging people and creatives in tech. Could you tell us a bit about that and how you started to get into that?
Listen, I love living my time, right? I mean, and I've lived, I'm 74, and I've lived so fully that I should be 150, because I am curious, because I want to know, because I want to learn, because I surround myself with young people over and over, always, because I want to learn and I want to share what I know and share my experiences. Because of Barry and for a multitude of reasons, I met a lot of the tech people, and I am fascinated by tech. You know, and um, for example, during pandemic, two things happened. Everybody got closer to nature. So if you had a garden, you really appreciate your garden because you really. And on the other side, we were accelerated 5 to 10 years in the virtual world. So there's nature and there's the virtual world, and somehow they're getting closer. What is very important about the tech world is that because the virtual world is happening and because AI and all of that, what I realize is that there's not enough feminine energy in that. And if you program all these AI and the people who program, we don't
Yeah.
have the feminine energy, then we will lose everything we've done. And one very close friend of mine, Sam Altman, who is very advanced in I said to him, in AI, you have to put all the books written by women, all the books about women, character. And so it's very, very important that we don't forget to put the feminine energy into the virtual world.
When were you ever underestimated as a woman, and how did that make you feel?
You know, because of my mother, she always told me that it was to be a woman was a privilege, So I never thought that. And then because I worked, I had only one job. And then after that, I worked for myself. I never really felt glass ceiling and all of that. And in fashion, to be a woman designer was, not a disadvantage. But what I did realize is, and it's only lately that I realized how much for a woman who is a journalist and works so hard and studies and blah, 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 then she ends up having a great job for a great journalist, and then she's being abused. And that is unacceptable. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we have to fight against inequality, abuse, and violence.
Now you were on the cover
Oh.
of Newsweek. What was that like? What year?
1976, I was in the cover of Newsweek, and that same week, there was a girl in a Holston bathing suit. So Holston and I, we were on the cover. He was on the cover of Time. I was on the cover of Newsweek. I was 28 years old, and they didn't believe I was 28. They went to Belgium to check my birth certificate because they didn't believe I was 28.
No way.
And it was a very special moment. It was a very special week. And that week I went to the White House. That moment is the moment that I had become the woman I wanted to be. By the way, how old were you when you became the woman you wanted to be?
I'd say 30. When I
So
felt
the
like,
same as me.
yeah, 29, I'm starting to understand about how I need to be with myself. 29, 30.
Yeah.
Then
It's a
having
great
to,
age.
so acknowledging it in my mind, understanding how I have to do it, and then at the point of, that was the point where I need to take the action into doing it. It's also very important to be able to look oneself in the mirror and admit to one's faults, one's insecurities. It's okay. It's all right. You know what I mean? It's
That's what this little book is about. It's to own it. Doesn't matter what happened to you. You are diagnosed with something unpleasant. Your boyfriend leaves you. Whatever it
you
is,
got to
the
connect here.
one thing to do is own it. Own it. Okay, this is what happened. I own it. And then the minute you own it, you're in charge. Because your character is the only thing that you absolutely have 100% control of. You could
Absolutely
lose
right.
your health, you could lose your wealth, you could lose your beauty, you could lose your family, you could lose your freedom, but you
You're absolutely
never,
right.
ever lose your character.
So now you mentioned Barry, and when Diane mentions Barry, she's talking about her wonderful husband, Sir Barry Dillard, I call him, who is a visionary at that. I mean, I'm looking at the island that you both are coming up on the West Side Highway. That in itself is a piece of art. And I feel like when you moved to 14th Street, the High Line, you also were supportive of the High Line and making that happen, which is something big for New York City. And now you're doing this island. Can you explain to us?
Yes. So about 20 years ago, when I started my company again that I had sold and they had ruined, I didn't want to stay uptown in some office building. And I thought,
But did you,
you know
can I just
what?
ask you something? Did you have any fear when you had to restart your business again?
Yeah, but fear is, as I told you, my mother told me fear is not an option, right?
Yeah.
So it took me so long to get my name back and this and that. So when I started with a bunch of young girls. I was 50 then. Everybody else was 25. I thought I was their age, and we moved. And then
No, yeah.
I thought,
You
okay.
are.
And I found a carriage house in the West Village on 12th Street. And I bought that little building, and everybody said, "You're crazy. There were only butchers, and it was smelled bad. Nobody wants to work there, blah, blah, blah." And I moved there. And when you move in a new neighborhood, you make friends. And there was a diner called Florent. And there I
Florent,
met
I love
two guys,
Florent.
Florent.
Yeah.
And then I met these guys who had a dream of turning this old elevated railroad into a park. And they said, can we do our first fundraiser in your building? And I said yes. And that's how I got involved with them. And we ended up actually financing we were the largest financing. But by the time it started, it became the number one destination for tourists in New York.
The High Line.
And so that was that. And then Barry moved downtown also, and his offices, he had Frank Gehry do this beautiful building, and so he moved there too. And then after the High Line, I got involved with the Statue of Liberty. And
Yes.
then somebody came to Barry and say, will you save this old pier? And he said, an old pier? And then he looked at it and said, well, does it have to stay a long rectangle, or can we make something out of it? And that's when they had the idea. He had the idea
It
of
looks
turning
stunning,
into,
and it looks, what a treat for New York City this is going to be. Oh
just
my
for the
goodness.
public. There is no opening, there's nothing. It just opens. And not only it's a beautiful park on a little island,
I heard you
but
got theaters too.
open air theater. And that's where my husband is visionary. But because when he started that, we all said with him in the family, why do we need a theater? Why do we need to do the production and this and that? And he insisted on it. And now, obviously, after the pandemic, that people have no
Exactly.
theater, that people don't want to go inside, all of a sudden, he will have created this. And I'm going to show you a picture.
It's
And it is
incredible.
really,
He's so ahead of his
yeah,
time. What a genius Barry
I
Diller
know,
is. What a genius.
I know.
And always been so sweet to me. That always, always, always.
And this was taken from a helicopter.
Whoa. Now I've gotten to see this. I've passed this so many times because I live further down, and it's so, I was always saying, what is that? And now I can't wait to get back to go there. What a treat. What a special gift to give New York City, especially at this time without even knowing that this was going to happen.
I know.
Now, we're going to go back to Own It, because Own It, you started Own It through the pandemic. You've done everything through the pandemic. You started writing it through the pandemic, promoting it through the pandemic. I mean, I know that this has been a very difficult time for a lot of people, but I also know it's been a time of reflection, it's been a positive time for some too. I mean, in terms of the lives that we've lost, that's tragic. But I also know that this pandemic has been...
No, it forced us to pause. And we all live a world that we never stop. We went there, 3 days there, 2 days there, da. And now, all of a sudden, we had to pause. I was in my home that I bought myself when I was 27 years old. This was the first time that I couldn't move. I was lucky because I have a garden. And if you have a garden, it's a lot easier. And so it was time. I mean, it was an opportunity, this forced pause, to think about what matters most and what in your life doesn't make sense anymore. Because even some business model don't make sense anymore, but you just do it, and it's like one thing after the other, after the other, after the other. And so
you become an autopilot.
I don't want to take... That's right. So I think that if something so unexpected happens to you, you have to say, okay, this is meant for me to learn. And then you learn.
I agree. You have to embrace it. You have to embrace it. You can't fasten it up. You can't slow it down. You just have to go with it. It's easier to do it that way. I totally agree. Diane, what will you say to all those young creators out there who have watched you, who have lived and followed your journey, who are inspired by you and what you do today, in all walks of creatives? What's your advice today to the world? Because you're someone, we could be having lunch in Qatar with Her Highness Sheikh Moza to, you know, and all these people look up to you and respect you. So what would you be your words of wisdom?
What would I say? I said that looking back, what what was the best thing about my life is that I never lied. I have never lied, and I've never lied to myself. And practicing the truth is the most important and valuable thing you could do. And it's not easy. And I don't know why it happened to me, but I did that. And that's why I say everything is about owning it. Be who you are. Be who you are. I mean, and own it. You have a big nose, but you know what? The minute you own it, everybody will say, what an interesting nose. You know, it's all about that. Be the best you can, be hard on yourself, be demanding on yourself, but like yourself. Be your best friend. I go to sleep at night and I'm so glad I am me because I'm my best friend. And so what I would tell young people today is the most important relationship in life is the one you have with yourself. Because once you have that, any other relationship is a plus and not a must.
Makes so much sense. Diane von Furstenberg, Princess Diane von Furstenberg, thank you so much for your time today and being on No Filter. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I said to Derek, I was like, Diane, and he was like, let me call. I said, please ask Diane because we're going to take a little hiatus soon. And I was like, we have to have Diane. You're just so much, you're just an institution. So important for us.
Thank you, Naomi. And you are also very important. You are a role model to so many. You are a light. You also carry a torch of freedom. And I love you, I respect you, and I admire you.
I love you too. Diane von Furstenberg, everybody.
Bye.
Words of wisdom, life lessons here today on No Filter. Take notes. And of course, please go out and own it. I love you, Diane. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I love you, darling. Bye.
Bye. Ladies and gentlemen, Diane von Furstenberg. What a lady. And we could go on because she has seen and done so much and always is totally a chameleon, turning around, doing something unexpected. Inspiration. Thank you to our fashion oracle, DVF, Princess DVF. Please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Saying to you, brown girls out.